The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
I just say that just to emphasize the fact that I'm not one of those people, not that I want to caricature anybody else, that I'm not one of those people that wants to play gotcha. I don't want to get you. I just want the truth, and unfortunately, I found the facts so alarming that as a patriot, as a conscientious journalist, I have been obliged to report them, even if it means that I'm vilified or mocked or whatever it is. I really don't care.
Grace, do you know who?
Hold to the truth.
Do you know who Phil Berg is?
He was one of
actually.
He
is the father of the birther movement. He was a Pennsylvania lawyer who was actually, as a member of the NAACP, lifelong Democrat. He was the one who I first heard say, look, and we can argue about natural born. There's a subject I'd like to take on one day. But he was the first one who came out and said, hey, forget natural born. This guy's not a citizen at all. And I thought Phil Berg was nuts. And I thought, well, I'm going to prove him wrong. And that's what woke me up. I tried to prove him wrong, and I couldn't do it.
Well, you see, that has happened to lots of folks who get involved in this case. In fact, Lieutenant Zulo himself, I interviewed him extensively, and he told me that Sheriff Arpaio called him in when the citizens demanded an inquiry into the long-form birth certificate, and he thought this was just going to be a matter of, a couple of days' work, whatever he was going to say was fine, and everybody was going to move on. And he was stunned at what he found. And the same thing happened to Reed Hayes. Reed Hayes, okay, I'm just going to, give him my professional opinion, tell him that it's okay, and we're all going to move on. And I think most of us professionals, we just are dumbfounded. This can't be happening in the United States of America. It just can't be. It's like, say it isn't so, say it isn't so. That's what usually happens when you look at the facts. I look at the facts of that plane crash, and I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me. To be honest with you, I couldn't sleep several nights running over those facts. I've said on the air several times there were a few people that really have grabbed me, especially recently as a journalist. One of them is Loretta Spuddy. That crash is haunting me. It doesn't make sense. The facts do not add up, and I suggest we all continue to use our various expertise. One of the things I've said on the air many times is, look, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And it's going to take a lot of minds coming together. Like Mike before said, he knows about planes. I don't know anything about planes. I don't know the first thing about planes. I don't know anything about planes. It's going to take a lot of people with a lot of different areas of expertise to come together and help us to answer all the questions that continue to swirl around this man. And sadly, unless they're answered, many of us continue to regard him and his entire presidency as illegitimate.
Well, Breitbart's being declared dead of natural causes 5 minutes after he hit the ground, and he was just fine right before that is pretty suspicious to me, too. And I guess you were aware of that, right?
Yes, I am aware of the concerns. And Michael Hastings, I'm aware of those, too, and I'm aware of them, yes. I have not reported on those yet. As I said, I think that it's going to take various people with various expertises to come forward, and then eventually, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a couple of whistleblowers. Look, Edward Snowden came forward and has told the nation things that none of us would believe would be possible. And we've discovered, if you do some research on this, that there have been previous whistleblowers, even before Edward Snowden came forward, that tried to warn the public, but they were ignored. So sometimes it just takes many, many, many years as different people from different departments and different areas of expertise come forward. But I do think eventually the truth will all come out.
Why do you think the big pseudo-conservatives, I call them the radio rhinos like Rush Limbaugh, won't touch this subject?
Well, I can tell you a lot about that, and you've got people in the media, whether it's the print or the radio media, they are being told by their producers or their managers or the corporate heads there are certain topics they cannot touch for fear of being completely discredited. So they are being urged not to go in that direction. And sometimes some stories, I know because I worked in a newspaper, sometimes the reporters will say this story is red hot, it should run, it should go, and someone from higher up will squash it. So you've got people within the media, even within the conservative media, that are not necessarily conservative. That's one thing that I discovered that I was very surprised. This war that we're fighting against liberals, the liberals are just about everywhere. At the Washington Times where I worked, we were constantly battling various higher-ups who were of a liberal persuasion, who were deliberately trying to muzzle conservatives. So you've got a lot of dynamics within many major media outlets, whether they are individuals who want to crush conservatism or various parts of conservatism, or whether there are folks who are just concerned about ratings and maintaining credibility. They muzzle lots of folks on lots of issues. And so many times you have a choice to make. Do I fight all the battles all the time, or do I choose which issues I'm going to address in order to at least do some good?
We saw what happened to Lou Dobbs when he was with CNN. He started his commentary with, look, I'm not saying I think this guy's an illegal alien. I would just like him to show us valid documentation. He was warned once never to say it again. Got back on air and he said, look, I do believe he's an American. But I still, all I said was I'd like to see some valid documentation. Boom, he was fired. But Limbaugh, on the other hand, now I don't know how this works, but his EIB network, doesn't he own it?
I don't know the details about Limbaugh. To be honest with you, I'm not much of a fan or a follower. I don't know that much about his holdings, what he possesses and what he doesn't possess. But what I can tell you is that in the radio business, if somebody mentions it, you have a whole backlash, too, among the audience, you see. It's not just the higher-ups, but the audience they'll just berate the station and say we're going to tune out, et cetera, because there's a large swath of the American people that have been completely convinced that this is quackery. And so you have people in positions of influence that are making a judgment call. Unless there's going to be significant evidence coming forward, they're not going to report the issue. Even somebody like Michael Savage, who is very brave and bold and basically goes against the grain on many issues, he hasn't touched it either. And
well, a little bit. He's broached the subject, but you're right. He doesn't really get into it, but I don't know. I don't listen to him much. Every time I turn him on, he's telling me that he's the smartest man in the world, so I turn him right back off again. But it's true. But Limbaugh, I think he's in a. I could tell you a story, but I shouldn't because I have no proof because I deleted the proof. But there's another very big radio talk show host who will remain nameless, who very early on, I sent him a direct message on Twitter. And I said, what is with you? Why are you afraid of this subject? And from his Twitter account, this person, who will remain nameless, I got back a message saying, if you were making the kind of money I was making, would you rock the boat like that? I'll tell you who this was off the air sometime.
That doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me. You would not believe the greed that I have seen both in Washington, D.C. and in the radio business. It is mind-boggling to me because I pursue my craft as a vocation, and also, I do not understand once you already have millions upon millions, why you wouldn't at some point say, I've got financial security, I've got all the money I could possibly have, why don't I go forward and do my craft with as much integrity and thoroughness as I can? To me, that is mind-boggling, but I've seen it again and again. The greed and the willingness or the inability to let go of a certain ratings or standing, the cowardice, too. There's just a lot of cowardice out there. They just don't want to endure the backlash. And what you're seeing is the left does a very, very good job of vilifying people who don't toe the party line. So we have, in many cases, a media that is very sycophantic. And you also have a revolving door between the media and positions of power in Washington, D.C., like Jay Carney himself used to be a reporter. So if you're a reporter out there and you want to make more money than you're making as a reporter, you think, well, I'm not going to rock the boat too much because, hey, maybe I'll get to work at a different position if I'm still considered part of the establishment or the mainstream. So we have a lot of these issues that are slowly corroding our republic.
Yeah, the goal of Jay Carney is beyond belief. I mean, at a press conference not very long ago, he was presented with the question, well, the president, quote unquote, said that if you liked your health insurance, you could keep it. What happened to that? He said, yeah, you can keep it. It's just going to cost you a lot more than it used to. That's all. Did you hear that?
Yes, I know, and that is typical of Jay Carney. I had a radio show called American Heartline with Dr. Grace, and in one of my shows we counted down the top 10 lies of Jay Carney. He is nothing other than a professional liar, and I think that he's also doing a disservice to his position as press secretary. That position is not to simply lie on behalf of the president. Once you discover that the president isn't telling the truth, if you're a person of conscience, you should just resign. Say, Mr. President, I'm not going to go out there and lie on your behalf. So Jay Carney, as far as I'm concerned, is complicit with all of the lies of this president because he goes out there and he tries to sell those lies to the press. And one of the things you see, too, is that the press is becoming increasingly demoralized as they cover this White House because they know they're being lied to. In some instances, they even laughed in the face of Jay Carney. And I've never seen that kind of a spectacle, that kind of disrespect of the White House press secretary.
They must have a very large liquor cabinet at the White House. You know, Dr. Grace, we pride ourselves here. You mentioned something before. The problem that we have, we don't claim where he was born. We don't claim he's not an American. We don't know. When we present our sheriff kit or the information on the forged birth certificate, the selective service registration card, and the Social Security number, and other things, people say, "Oh, you're one of them birthdays. He was born in Kenya." We never said that. I never said that. That's never been on my website. Where did you get that information from? That's because way back at the beginning, that's what this is all about. When the Clintons started this and all of that, we don't know. We don't know if he's an American. I don't know if that's his real mother. I don't know who his father is. I can tell you it's not Barack Obama Sr. I don't know. We just don't know. We know there's false documents, and that's what we take pride on in representing that and trying to show people, including Congress, that there is a problem with the documentation. When we walk in there, they were rolling their eyes. Oh, yeah, this is about Kent. No. Give me 5 minutes and I'll show you. And we turned some heads. And we turned some people around. They said, oh, we thought you were those Kenyan people saying he was born in Kenya. We thought we resolved that. No, you have false information. Well, what cave have you been living in? And we've had to put up with that, the attacks, the racist. Hey, I'm not a racist. I don't like Joe Biden either. You know, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yes, and that's quite right. And the same is with my position as well. I don't claim to have any knowledge as to where he was born. I don't know if it was Hawaii or it was Kenya or it was Indonesia or who knows. I am exactly as you are. The only thing I have reported on is that forensic experts, even I am not a forensic expert, I've simply reported that a forensic expert has said in a sworn legal affidavit that the document is a fake. And it's not just one document analyst. Lieutenant Zullo has 1,200 different kinds of tests that were done on the document that render it a fake. And all of this is in the court. So we now have officers of the law that are saying it. That is really important because for me that was really the watershed. It's not just another columnist, another newspaper, somebody that writes in a newspaper of any kind, another reporter. It's not a radio host that is saying it. This is now a legal proceeding with legal documents. That is at the moment that I jumped in and put my own professional credibility on the line in terms of chronicling this legal battle that is going on. But I'm not pronouncing on it. I'm simply depicting the facts as they unfold.
Well, I am a flat-out birther.
I want to take a 1-minute call before I forget. I've been forgetting to do this. First, I'd like to thank Birther Report. I want to thank them. I can't thank them enough for daily information. And I'd like to thank Commander Charles Kirshner, retired. He took out an ad in the Washington Times about the Selective Service Registration Card forgery, forged document. He took it out for 3 straight weeks. I had him put my phone number from my website, 570-394-2570. I can't tell you the flood of calls that came in from all over the country, the people with connections, with political connections, with judges. I'm still taking calls and working with people on a daily basis. I'd like to thank the commander for placing that ad in the paper. It really gave us a boost. I'm still communicating with people from that. I'm still mailing out kits. I owe about 15 more kits I'm going to mail out tomorrow. So I just wanted to give those kudos. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, you had to have seen that ad, right, Grace?
I had not seen that. Are you asking me the question?
Yeah, in the Washington Times.
No, I don't know.
Oh,
I had not seen that ad. But there have been lots of different folks who have really put their neck on the line. I mean, remember Colonel Larkin, who actually went to jail demanding the certificate. And then once the certificate was released, I wrote a piece called Questions Abound. When the president presented the long-form birth certificate, I asked the question, well, I don't understand. If you released it now, why didn't you release it before this man went to jail? Why would you allow the man to go to jail? That doesn't make sense to me.
None of this makes sense. None of it makes sense.
Yes.
Unlike you and Mike Zullo and everybody else, and I certainly understand his strategy, because if the birth certificate is fraudulent, that's a felony and somebody committed it. If the selective service card is fraudulent, that's a felony and he committed it. If the Social Security number is fraudulent, that's a felony and somebody committed that. But I am a flat-out birther. I think he's born in Kenya.
Well, thinking and proving are two different things. So what we need to focus on is what we can prove. I think that's what Lieutenant Zullo is working very hard on, and I try to keep all my reporting strictly on the facts. And I think the more we do that, the more we strengthen our hand, strengthen our credibility, and keep the story alive until we get to the bottom of it.
Yep. Mike?
Well, with that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to end this interview. Mike, did you have another question for me?
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Did we lose Mike? We may have lost Mike.
Oh,
I see. He's chatting with somebody here who I don't know what he. Mike,
I'm back, Carl. Go ahead.
There you are.
Okay.
Well, Grace was just saying.
I was just asking if you had any final questions for me, as I've long exceeded the time here.
No, I have a lot of thanks for you. You were well-informed, well-spoken. I thought that was great, how you led off at the beginning when you said you had to go to the beginning about the qualifications of FUDDY. You were right on with the dates. It was January, I believe, 26, 2011. She was temporary director. And then, coincidentally, in March of 2011, right before the White House released that birth certificate, she became full-time director. And you have to look at that. The whole circumstance, you went into the plane, the landing, the control, all of that. It just doesn't add up. I thank you very much. Why don't you tell everybody how they can find you, where they can get you, and how they can contact you?
Okay, well, all my writing is at worldtribune.com, and that, by the way, is a fabulous site run by a man that I really, really respect, Robert Morton. I worked with him in Washington, D.C. for many, many years. I also am the founder of the Edmund Burke Institute, so there's a link on that site, which is Dr. Grace's latest column. You can find my writing there, and I'm also on the air every week on WTSB. That's American Heartland with Dr. Grace on WTSB. It's a show that airs in North Carolina. That's at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And all of the radio shows are archived, by the way. They're archived at YouTube, so Grace Photo, YouTube.com/Grace Photo is all of the radio episodes.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.